Baba knows the way. For Joseph Baba Ifa, Baba knows the way. We follow the signs. He walks with the Orishas through sacred lines. He speaks with the ancients. He honors the drum. He carries the wisdom where we all come from.
Hey family, thank you for tuning into Our Roots podcast with Joseph Baba Ifa. Where only the strongest roots see the light, brought to you by 𝗿𝗲𝗍 Got Candles and more. If you haven't had the opportunity, hit that subscribe button. I tell you, Phil, every time I hear that song, I get happy.
Yeah, man, it's a happy song. I love it. It's I would put it on Spotify, but we want to keep playing it during the podcast here. So if you're a VIP, I'll send you a link.
Absolutely, yeah, we're gonna have that perk for the VIP members. But it's really nice when you see people, like, sometimes they'll tag me and stuff like that, and they're jamming to it, so it's pretty cool.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's just them listening to it on the channel, but it's a whole banger.
Hashtag Baba knows the way.
Oh God.
No, seriously. If you're watching this, hashtag Baba knows the way. If you make a video with the song, because I'll rip it off of whatever platform and I'll play it on the podcast.
Very nice. Yeah, we'll definitely get you on there, but it's a smash. But what's up, Phil?
Yeah, man. Happy Sunday. Glad to be here, guys, and hope you are glad to be here too.
Always.
Don't forget, we have a membership program. That means we have several tiers for you to join, 3 exact, and there's different perks for each different tier, whether it's extra shows, discounts on merch, private shows just for you guys, or discounts on classes and upcoming events.
Oh, yeah, the workshops are underway. We're going to have one here in Orlando, Florida. 48 hours of Ifa Orisha fun, divination, sacrifice, herb course, candles, baths, soaps, espiritismo, everything you can think of. So definitely get in there, guys. Look in the description so we can see you there. We can all hang out and learn something together. Apart from that, I'd like to mention our sponsor, Twin Precision Mobile Detailing. Definitely check their information in the description in the Central Florida area. If you need a car looking good, please do. I got young children, and you would never know. They do a great job. So all the Cheetos and Funyuns are taken out of the rug. So yeah, definitely that. Courses, classes, all the good stuff. So today we're continuing with our animal series, Phil, and we're going to be doing an episode just on the elephant. I knew you were going to do that.
You know me very well.
Yep. So we in the first episode we kind of rounded out with a Patakis from the 𝗿𝗲𝗍𝗶𝗍 that spoke about this animal. In what is, in my opinion, the real king of the jungle. Because even though the lion, obviously, apex predator, really has no contrary in Africa other than the hippo, but once again, he's not on land. The elephant really is one where he shows up and people kind of move out of the way. And, I really love this series because it makes me think so much about my kids because we watch the Jungle Book so much. Even the new one on Netflix, which is a little intense, but it has some great messages. And it was so incredible to watch and see how they depicted this animal the same way we would. And when you look at, Indian culture and, the historicness of it and how actually related it is to Ifa and how they intermingled, like in the Odu Babao Fumeji says, similar concepts. They're seen as the gods of the jungle, basically. And that's kind of what it is. When they come around, everybody kind of moves out of the way. And Orunmila had this same effect. Whenever Orunmila would penetrate into a space, the other Orishas would kind of make way. Not from ego or arrogance, but just out of respect for him really facilitating all of them becoming so great. Because even they had to arrive at Ifa to be able to fulfill their destiny. So that's why Orunmila is known as the elephant as well. And that is why, as well, whenever Ifa divination is occurring or initiation is occurring, it really doesn't give space for anything else. Kind of like in the Odu Babao Ekumeji, where it says Orunmila doesn't share space. His actual space is within the home. It makes reference to his elephant-like characteristic of, I'm holding this down right now. So
I love the elephant.
It's actually a really beautiful animal. And when you look at it, it really is a miracle. I mean, that something is able to maintain that much size and space just off of leaves, with the whole herbivore concept. So that's really incredible. But going back to the elephant quality, that's why during an Ifa divination or initiation, people can't come into trance with a gungung or Orisha or any of those things. Orunmila tends to have a way of dominating his space. So we're going to go into a couple different Patakis that touch on the different characteristics of this animal. Some of them great, some of them not so great. We touched on the Pataki from Obatala, and I'm not going to reiterate that. That's already in the first episode at the end. But there is a similar one, and it's in the Odu of 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗃. And in that sign, the elephant was known as the son of Oduduwa, specifically. And all of the perks that came with it, being the son of the King of Kings, basically, he was privileged, right? In the beginning, he was able to handle it, but as he started growing into his own size-wise, status-wise, he started feeling himself a little bit and believing his own legend. So he started becoming arrogant, mistreating people, roughing people up. Unfortunately, you're going to see a common theme with this animal. In the negative space, it's very toxic. It's arrogant. It doesn't like to share space. It doesn't like competition. It doesn't like people trying to, take the rug from under his feet. It's one that is very self-centered, right, in the negative. And you see all those qualities here in 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗃. So Oduduwa started hearing about this. Orunmila heard about it. 𝘃𝗶𝗱𝗏 heard about it. Shango heard about it. Even Oro, who really isn't much of a main character in a lot of these stories, even he heard about it. And they were a little disappointed. And they started wanting to each try to mentor and coach the elephant, but he was very resistant until ultimately his father had to get involved and said, hey, either you get with the program or we're going to have to make some adjustments because you're creating a lot of enemies and having a lot of conflicts for no reason. Everybody wants to love you. Everybody respects you. Everybody, borderline fears you. I mean, I really don't know what you're looking for here. And it got to the point where even the elephant became disrespectful with Oduduwa. There's versions where he lifted his hands to Odua and Orula and a bunch of different nonsense to the point where he had to be subdued and ultimately sacrificed, right? And through this sacrificial process and him being dismembered, once again, the tools of Ifa manifested. The one that it speaks of most heavily here is actually the tusk, which was made out of ivory. That's why this material is so highly associated with deities like Oduduwa and Orunmila, because they were the people who initiated or parented to a certain degree this animal. That's why you'll notice the original 𝗃𝗏𝗏𝗃 or 𝗃𝗏𝗃𝗃, which is now the modern deer horn or Ifa bell, was originally made out of ivory, based on stories such as this in Obatala. Obviously, due to restrictions and extinction and overall moderation, we can't do that anymore, being that there's laws in place to preserve the species. And I'll also say this as well. We have to be very careful as Ifa practitioners to not overindulge antiquated literature, right? So for whatever reason, somebody may need ivory. It's legitimate and to be respected. But if it comes at the cost of an animal going extinct or being highly endangered, it's better to find alternatives like we did in the New World with the deer horn. But poaching and things like that, we really can't indulge that because there's nothing worse than not having the living representation of things that are in our literature. That's really a failure as far as humanity goes. Whether it's things like the elephant, the rhino, whatever else is poached for whatever reason, it's all about preservation. So, but originally, things like the 𝗃𝗏𝗏𝗃, or the chain of divination, of the Babalawo, as well as the 𝗃𝗏𝗏𝗃, a lot of these things were constructed out of ivory, but there were many more elephants back then, and things were a little more controlled. Now that we have an oversaturated fraternity and spirituality, things are a little more scarce, which are understandable, but, we have to preserve the animal. So 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗃 is another Odu that speaks of why the tools of the Babalawo ultimately were derived from the elephant's skeletal system. So with an Odu like that or a Pataki like that, when we look at this animal's character, it speaks about, the toxic aspects of it, where, it was a little aggressive unnecessarily, and ultimately he succumbed to his fate due to his behavior. So it's a message for all of us, regardless of how large we are, whether it be status, size, what have you. Humility and Iwa are always going to be the best path to success. As I kind of go through the Rolodex of Patakis that I'm going to go over today, the elephant actually isn't spoken of that great. I mean, you know, you look at it, it's a majestic animal. It's lovely. It's very ominous. You know, it's kind of like when you're around one, the ones that I've seen, I would love to see one in nature, you know, under a controlled situation. But the ones I've seen at like a Busch Gardens or whatnot, just being around them, you know, they're so imposing that it kind of is like, oh my God, you know, it's kind of like the atmosphere changes a little bit. I don't know how to explain it, but there's definitely a thought process there, and you know, it's just it's a different vibe from the other animals for sure. But the majority of the time in the Patakis and Ifa, it really isn't represented in the best light. So it's actually, you know, more of a testament on what not to do than what to do. I think going through all of these negative situations, the elephant ultimately learned how to mediate or moderate its behavior in a way where it could survive. So there's another Pataki in the Odu of 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏 or 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏. And it says that at one point elephants would live in the house. Now, really random concept, foreign concept to us, but Ifa says at one point this was commonplace. And the elephant was very frustrated because he couldn't turn around without breaking something. I'm not sure how the saying goes, Phil, and you could correct me. An elephant in a tea shop?
Yeah.
Is that it? Something like that. Well, basically, he would always break stuff.
The China shop.
In a China shop, yeah. And so he was very frustrated. He felt, you know, censored to a certain degree. And he went for divination with Orunmila. And Ifa told him to perform sacrifice with 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏 and to deposit it in the jungle. So when he went to do the 𝗃𝗏𝗏, while he was getting the materials together to bring it to Ifa and whatnot, he got so angry that he completely destroyed his house. He just started, you know, bucking and kicking and, you know, trampling and all these different things. And before you know it, he was displaced. So when he went to do the 𝗃𝗏𝗏, he told Orunmila what happened, and Ifa told him to deposit the 𝗃𝗏𝗏 in the jungle, right? And when he deposited it, and he kind of looked around and felt things out, he said, it's true, I wouldn't have a roof, but here I feel at ease, or I feel free. And he decided to stay. And in the Odu of 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏 is why elephants don't live in the house, and they ultimately migrated to the jungle. You know, and they would congregate whenever they needed to, as far as Orunmila and the elephant meeting up. So this Odu speaks of how the elephant makes a representation of being where you're celebrated or being where you feel comfortable. Being that it is a large animal, somewhat disproportionate, it's kind of a message to all of us that nobody's perfect, and we all have to be accepting of all the virtues and rooms for improvement that God gave us. But a lot of our success is based on our surroundings more than even our efforts at times, where you see some people that might not be as prepared, but they're in the right situation and they really skyrocket to success. And you have really prepared people who are in the wrong ambiance, and it takes them forever to get marginal results. So this Odu says, be where you feel comfortable, and ultimately that's where you're going to be most successful. So, in the Odu of 𝗃𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗏𝗏, it speaks once again of the elephant's behavior, where the elephant was making things a little bit difficult. You had the Orisha Osain, who was frustrated because the elephant, every time he would come through the jungle, he would trample all the plants and the things that Osain would need, and Osain tried to politely ask him to be careful. The elephant had some choice words for him. And, you know, apart from that, Osain saw all the things that the elephant could offer based on his physiology. So he went to visit Orunmila. And Orunmila saw him with the Odu of 𝗃𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗏𝗏, where Ifa told him to perform sacrifice with a blade, a wooden stick, you know, different things, a feather. And from that, they actually manifested the blow dart. And Osain looked at Orunmila and said, what am I going to do with this? This isn't going to kill the elephant. He said, if you put some of that stuff you use on the end of it, I guarantee you'll get what you want. So Osain posted up and watched the elephant go through and shot the dart into his heart. And when he did that, initially the elephant looked down and kind of smirked and looked at Osain because he found him and said, "This is what you got." And Osain was like, So the elephant started charging at him, like trying to attack him or to take down the tree that he was hiding in. But every step the elephant took, it started getting weaker and weaker and weaker until it actually collapsed right before the tree. And Osain went down to look at what happened, and the neurotoxin or poison or whatever he had put at the end of the dart actually killed the elephant, right? From that, Osain started, basically dismembering the elephant, consuming it, using what it needed, started selling the ivory, a bunch of different things, and he was able to come out victorious. And the other elephants from that day forward started being a little more considerate of his home and not destroying it. Phil, have you ever seen Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls?
Yeah.
Do you remember the scene where he's running through the jungle and the Wachutu tribe is it was the Wachutus, and they were shooting the blow darts at him.
Yeah.
And it kept catching him in the backside. That's the movie I think of every time I say this Patakis, because in 𝗃𝗍𝗃𝗁 was where the blow dart was born. So this is the Ifa of the Wachutu.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, but same concept. And the message here is, once again, we have to be considerate of those that surround us. The elephant, once again, threw his weight around, being a little arrogant, inconsiderate. Osain pleaded with him, hey, let's try to live together harmoniously. But it got to the point where the elephant started threatening him, harassing him, and Osain realized that there was no negotiating with this fellow, and he needed to be exterminated. So Osain did just that. And another great lesson here is understanding that no enemy is too small. If someone wants to engage you in combat or come into your space and try to infringe upon it, they have to be eliminated, regardless if it's an ant, if it's a dragon, what have you, because anything could pose a threat if it's unattended to long enough. So the response has to be swift. But the blow dart was born here. It's also a metaphor for syringes and things like that to be careful with. The Ifa of the mosquito. All those things are in 𝗃𝗍𝗃𝗁. In the Odu of Owaniwoka, it speaks of Obatala. And Obatala was a great king, and he had all the resources and means and assets that anyone could want. But his most prized possession was a white elephant. And mind you, these were rare, so he owned it. And he would engage in a competition with the other kings of the continent to race their elephants. Now, apart from being beautiful, the white elephant was as swift as the wind. So the other kings would come for the sport of it, but they knew that the white elephant would ultimately win. So the white elephant, based on being Obatala's preferred pet and being swift and having all these advantages, would go and try to sun the other animals in the jungle. And it would say, look, I'm Obatala's favorite. I'm richer than you guys. I'm bigger than you guys. I'm better looking than you guys. I'm faster than you guys. Like, get out of my way. And originally, the animals were in awe of him, but little by little, that awe became hate. Admiration became envy. And they said, we have to find a way to be able to kill the elephant. So the elephant, feeling some heat in general, or before their next match or race, went to visit Orunmila, and the Odu of Owaniwoka was revealed, 𝗀𝗍𝗃𝗁. And when the Odu was revealed, Orunmila told the elephant to perform an 𝗃𝗶𝗸𝗁, to go and make amends with those that he felt like he had wronged or had offended, or just to have better character in general, to have the best results in his race. And the elephant completely disregarded Orunmila, was arrogant with Orunmila, popped off on Orunmila and said, I'm not going to give you another $1. So the day of the race came, and all of the kings lined up. The elephants were revved up and ready to go, and the gunshot went off, or whatever signal they used back then, and they all started racing, and immediately the white elephant made it to the front of the pack. But what they didn't realize is that the other animals in the jungle had laid that lane down with honey. And as the elephant started running through the honey, little by little, the legs started getting tired, moving in place, and it ultimately collapsed because it was so viscous that they couldn't move anymore. So Obatala lost the championship. He lost the race, and the prestige of having the greatest elephant in Africa. The elephant pleaded with Obatala for help. Obatala completely disregarded the elephant, saying it was worthless, and left it there. And not only did he leave it there, he left it there to die, where the ants followed the honey and started consuming the elephant alive. And that was the end of the white elephant. And the other animals had laid that trap because of the disrespect it would consistently do. So in this 𝗀𝗲𝗹𝘁𝗲 of 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗃, once again, the elephant's character, arrogant, braggadocious, a little bit much, and having a real lack of humility and good character. So we have to be careful, because the message here is, no enemy is too small. We have to always try to be likable. We have to be political. We have to know how to interact with others. But arrogance and, being selfish really get us nowhere, other than the way the elephant ended his life. It's also a testament to making sure, we're around people for, what we are rather than what we have to offer. In this sign, Obatala used the elephant, but the elephant, being around Obatala, thought he was important, when in reality, he was just a means to an end for a narcissist's ego. So, sad story there. Makes reference to the legs, etc. In the 𝗀𝗲𝗹𝗁𝗃 of 𝘃𝗶𝗱𝗃, it speaks of the Orisha 𝘃𝗶𝗱𝗃, or 𝗀𝗃, however you want to look at it. He interacted with elephants frequently. And in this 𝗀𝗲𝗃, this is actually the elephant hunters. And 𝘃𝗶𝗱𝗃 was a very accomplished hunter. There's not one animal he never hunted. There's not one mission he went on that he failed. He was literally the GOAT of hunters in ancient Africa. So the time came where he was going to retire. He had amassed enough wealth and enough resources to, start a taxidermy business, sell skins, meat, butcher shop, whatever. He had an emporium. And it was time for him to retire and spend time with his family now. And his wife and his children were very excited. But Eshu, wanting to test 𝗃𝗏𝗃's character, looked and said, we're going to see if he really is going to retire and follow through on his word. So he disguised himself as a random passerby and went up to 𝗃𝗏𝗃 and said, have you heard of the great white elephant that roams the earth that no one's been able to hunt? And when 𝗃𝗏𝗃 heard that, he went like, oh man. And he went running to Orunmila. And when they did divination, the 𝗀𝗲𝗹𝗁𝗃 of 𝘃𝗏𝗃 was revealed, where Orunmila told him, please do not go after another animal. You survived. You have wealth, you have a family, go home. Not everything is worth hunting. It's not worth losing your family and your life over. But 𝗃𝗏𝗃 didn't listen, and he told his wife that he would be back, that he was going to go on one last mission. She wasn't happy. The kids weren't happy. But motivated by his ambition, he left. And they say that this quick hunting escapade that was supposed to last a month ended up lasting 7 years. He was away from his family for all that time. And after 7 years of searching far and wide across the continent, he found the white elephant. And they say that it was kind of on the border between the jungle and a mountain, or he found it on a mountain, what have you. But when 𝗃𝗏𝗃 was going to shoot the elephant with the bow and arrow, the elephant, using telepathy, started speaking to 𝗃𝗏𝗃. And 𝗃𝗏𝗃 was shook. And the elephant said, was it worth it? And 𝗃𝗏𝗃 said, no, it's about to be when I kill you and I bring you home. And at that moment, the elephant actually put an image in 𝗃𝗏𝗃's head of his wife and children abandoning him and leaving his home. And 𝗃𝗏𝗃 said, is what you're showing me real? And the elephant said, yes, it is. So at this moment, you have to make a choice. Either you kill me and don't make it back in time to save your family, or you can go home and do what you should have done from the beginning. In some versions, he left and made amends with his family and lived in peace. Was able to calm his anxiety to always have to hunt. In other versions, he didn't, and he killed the elephant and lost his family and lived a very solitude or solemn and secluded life. When we look at this Patakis and we look at the character of the elephant always has represented something majestic and mystical to all mythologies and people that have interacted with it. And in this specific case, it also showcases the divine intuition that they contain. Because when you look at the Patakis and you look at concepts of telepathy and imagery and all these different things. This is ancient scripture, and they were still recognizing these concepts. So they were able to recognize that the elephant had a way of communicating without saying a word at all. It's kind of like when you look in an elephant's eyes, they say 1,000 words without making a sound. So all of that manifests in the 𝗿𝗲𝗹𝗁𝗀𝗋. And this 𝗿𝗲 is also one of the 𝗿𝗲s why elephants really shouldn't be sacrificed. It's one of those animals that's on another tier when we talk about, the ladder of evolution and the animal kingdom. Animals such as the elephant, such as any of the big cats, like the 𝗿𝗲𝗹𝗁𝗀𝗋 meji says, should really be respected, or things like the African gray parrot, the 𝗃𝗗𝗃𝗍𝗶𝗍, the Tarako birds, the blue one, the red one. They're all very sacred animals and entities and beings that are here to perform much more of a role than just, facilitating an initiation or a process or an ebo. Right? The white elephant is actually a pretty majestic theme and a pretty common theme within the mythology. There's actually another Patakis I want to get into about the elephant and 𝘃𝗶𝗱𝗏 before I get into profoundly what the white elephant kind of represents. In the 𝗿𝗲𝗹𝗁𝗀𝗋 was once again where 𝘃𝗶𝗱𝗏 was an elephant hunter. It's actually known as the 𝗿𝗲 of the elephant hunters, 𝗿𝗲𝗃𝗋. And 𝘃𝗃𝗃 killed an elephant in front of its daughter. And the daughter mourned, profusely over it. And she swore to get revenge against 𝘃𝗃𝗃 somehow. And 𝘃𝗃𝗃, after, killing the king of the jungle, or the elephant, the largest elephant, took it back and was celebrated and was given the opportunity to be retired, never have to worry about anything again, and live the rest of his days in peace, teaching other hunters how to do his craft, etc. And he accepted it. So it was time for him to select a wife now, being that he had fulfilled his service. And he noticed this new beautiful woman that was walking through the village that he had no idea who she was, and he became enchanted by her. So he brought her home and introduced her to his mother. And immediately his mother said no. He said, "I don't trust this woman. She smells weird. Something's not right here. No one knows who she is. You need to slow down and find some of the other beautiful options that are in the village, but I do not accept this woman." And 𝘃𝗃𝗃 didn't listen because he was infatuated, and he actually brought the woman into his home. So one night, after getting married and falling asleep and, doing what they did, 𝘃𝗃𝗃 started having dreams about the elephant and his mother's words of advice and all these different things. And the mother in the room heard like this rumbling. And when the mother went in, there was an elephant in the room that was about to stomp 𝘃𝗃𝗃's head in. And the mother screamed. 𝘃𝗃𝗃 woke up. The elephant tried to take a strike at him. He moved out of the way. And out of fear of getting killed, the elephant broke through the house and ran back into the jungle. It was the baby elephant the whole time trying to avenge her father's death. And 𝘃𝗃𝗃 looked at his mother, and his mother was like, "I told you." And that's kind of where the story ends. There are versions that he went hunting it afterwards, but that's a little allegorical. But the message stands the same. The elephants, it's ironic, I think it's because they're so quiet, are seen in antiquity of having shape-shifting abilities. Like when you look at some of the accounts of some practitioners or residents over there, they'll be like, we saw one thing and then we looked back and it was an elephant. Or that the elephants actually over there are quite dangerous because they'll actually creep up on you. So the fact that they're that stealthy at that size is really, unheard of. So they attribute it to it having powers, right? Whether it's the telepathy, whether it is them being able to shapeshift, which 𝗿𝗲𝗃𝗃 says. It's all really interesting stuff. But in this sign, it speaks of the elephant's memory, specifically how the memory of the elephant,
they never forget.
It never forgets, Now, the reason Orunmila is seen as the elephant is because Orunmila is said to have had the best memory ever. He was able to memorize Ifa to perfection. So that's why they said Orunmila is the elephant, And if you look at the 𝗿𝗲𝗹𝗁𝗀𝗋, there's the Patakis of where Orunmila would shapeshift into animals. And they say that each animal represented a different aspect of his character. So that's why, well, is Orunmila the leopard, or is he the crocodile, or is he the elephant? Like, can we make up our minds? He's represented by all of them, right? Because they say that he has the memory of an elephant, you know, the ferocity of a leopard, the longevity of an alligator, amongst all the other things. Actually, one of the, and we'll get into this, one of the animals that represents Orunmila is actually the fly. We might have to do an episode just on the fly.
Yeah.
Because there's so much literature just on that animal as well. But another really incredible concept that was identified here, apart from the memory of the elephant, is in the Odu of 𝗀𝗲𝗃𝗃 is actually known as the cemetery of elephants. So I remember when I was younger, all I used to watch was National Geographic. And there was an episode one time, I don't know if it was about elephants, more than likely it was, where an elephant had actually died, right? I think of natural causes, because any other way the carcass wouldn't have been there. And it was really incredible because all the other elephants in the video circled it and were mourning, right?
Are you talking about Lion King?
No. Was that in Lion King too?
Yeah, after Mufasa died.
Bro, I don't even remember that part, bro.
Yeah.
Like, that actually, they must have gotten that from, like, real nature.
I'm sure.
Because in National Geographic, they had that. I don't know if it was National Geographic or Discovery, don't sue me, but an elephant had passed away, and they had circled it as a, I don't know what they're called, as a clan or whatnot. But the interesting thing is they actually forced the baby elephant before it, in front of it, and forced it to touch the one that had passed away, you know. And it was, like, even as a kid, I didn't really understand the concept of death and whatnot, but I was looking at it, I'm like, wow, there's something really profound here. And it was actually them teaching the baby about not being here. Like, imagine the level of higher thought. And then each of the elephants actually rubbed its trunk against the body, right?
Wow.
𝗀𝗃𝗃 is known as the funeral of elephants because it actually is a ceremony that they do where each of them rub the trunk, and then they actually abandon that land and they go somewhere else to not interact with it again.
Wow.
So Ifa already had knowledge of this, and then I actually saw it on TV. And then when I actually read 𝗀𝗃𝗃 so many years later, I'm like, oh my God, look at this. And it's just a reiteration. All of this is just nature watching. All we are is really just animals on TV, on divine TV, because we're just going through the same things over and over and over again. But that's there. And for anybody that hasn't seen it, or even in The Lion King, which I forgot that scene, ironically, all that's real. And all that is in the Odu of 𝗀𝗃𝗃. And it makes reference to not only the elephant's memory, but that there's something greater there. Like, literally, when you look at the elephant is seen as the embodiment of our greatest energies on earth, you know, ultimately God Almighty. But there's various, you know, beautiful pieces of literature that talk about, you know, the elephant and, you know, how majestic it was. I mean, when you look at Odus like 𝗃𝗶𝗱𝗏 or Odus like 𝗃𝗶𝗸𝗏𝗏, 𝗀𝗃𝗏𝗃 speaks of this as well, where, you know, they were trying to keep Orunmila away from the city of Ife, to be able to save it or to fulfill his destiny and whatnot, and how he actually, you know, with the help of the elephant and riding in on it, you know, straight Ace Ventura style, you know, was able to make his way in and be able to establish, you know, the sacred, you know, religious dynasty that we have, all as descendants of, you know, the Yoruba people, spiritually or ethnically. So it really is just a really big keystone animal and representation of what Ifa represents. Ifa represents progress, and nothing progresses like an elephant. Nothing can stop it. That's why when you look at the phrase Ifa wa, means Ifa will not be detained. Ifa will progress. It was first commemorated by the elephant, being that nothing can stop it from moving forward and progressing. So that's why Orunmila was always identified as the elephant, because he didn't allow anything to stop Ifa's progress or survival even till this day. You know?
Did you, speaking of how the elephant never forgets, now this is a little bit about the elephant's wrath. Did you hear about what happened in India with the lady and the elephant and her funeral? You mind if I tell you the story?
Please do.
All right, so there was an elephant and a lady in India. The elephant didn't like her, apparently for whatever reason, and it unalived her.
Yeah.
Pretty viciously.
Yeah.
And then they were at her funeral. And then the elephant came to the funeral and took her body and unalived it again.
Really?
And then it destroyed her house.
But bro, that's in Ifa, bro. Like the elephant's funeral rites. And then apart from that, if you look in 𝗃𝗏𝗃, look at all the odus. This is why elephants aren't in the home. Like the elephant came and destroyed it because of the trauma it had suffered. And if you look at 𝗃𝗏𝗃, when 𝘃𝗶𝗱𝗲 killed the elephant's father, she was like, I will never stop until you die. And if you look at the end of that Patakis, the war didn't end there. Like 𝘃𝗶𝗱𝗲 never really had peace after that. Like he had like PTSD from that. Like he'd wake up cold sweats. Like, is there an elephant in my room? Or, you know, whenever he would walk around, he's like, you know, are any of these women elephants? Like he lived in a perpetual state of paranoia. And it lets you know that they really, it reminds me when Cardi B was like forever, you know, and she's like, we got beef forever, you know? So the elephant does not let it go. And it just, it really has no reason to, but you know, it lets you know that there's a higher state of intelligence there because all of that is emotionally based. Like when somebody, you know, there's a big difference between, you know, a soldier exterminating a threat or eliminating a threat and doing it in the most metallic way possible versus somebody that, you know, wants to inflict pain to the point of causing somebody to transition. So when you look at what the elephant did, that's not coincidence. That is, you hurt me, I hurt you, and I still didn't get my lick in the way I wanted to, so I'm going to do it some more. And apart from that, I'm going to destroy the whole house. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and if you look at the movie The Jungle Book, ironically, which I reference a lot just because I enjoyed it so much with my kids, at the end in the Netflix version where he's like, yo, I know the guy who took your tusk, like, he never forgot. You know what I'm saying? And at the first opportunity or advantage, he mauled the guy, you know?
Where's the term elephant in the room come from, though?
It comes from that odu 𝗃𝗏𝗃𝗏𝗃.
Okay.
The elephant in the room, you know, like, is no one going to talk about this? You know, it's also in the odu of 𝗃𝗏𝗃 where the elephant was in the room, but he was so quiet, like, everybody was like, something's here, but we really don't know. But the elephant can also be seen in my sign. In the odu of 𝗃𝗏𝗃𝗃 was where the elephant was actually born, but it didn't have ears, right? So what would he do? He would just go around all day, you know, honking his trunk, you know, at everybody and harooing, you know, like Miss Rachel says.
That's the sound she says?
She's like, haroo, haroo. Dog, I'm such a dad, bro. I am such a dad, dog. I've seen every Miss Rachel episode. I saw the new potty one. It's fire. Miss Rachel, we love you.
Your kids don't like 𝘃𝗵𝗃𝗃's Corner yet?
Yeah, shout out to 𝘃𝗵𝗃's Corner, man. She's gangster. Yeah, it's good stuff. Like the bear hunt one, that's in Loli's rotation heavy.
Yeah?
Yeah, no, it's fire. 𝘃𝗵𝗃's fire, but Miss Rachel is unmatched, dog. I'm sorry.
Okay.
You know, it's just the way the kids light up with her is, you know, and I watch it, man. Shout out to Mr. Aaron. Shout out to all those guys, man. They're doing it.
Dominic's favorite was 𝘃𝗏𝗃𝗃.
No, 𝘃𝗏𝗃𝗃 is goated, bro. But it's a different age group. I mean, I don't know. When Loli was born, I mean, 𝘃𝗏𝗃𝗃 was heavy, and then when we discovered Miss Rachel, because if Loli was born, what's she now?
She was born 22, right?
Yeah, something like that. I don't know when Miss Rachel was popping, but we started with 𝘃𝗏𝗃𝗃, and then it transitioned into Miss Rachel, and then Miss Rachel, it was just over with. You know, Danny Go was in there too. The Wiggles, oh man.
Oh yeah.
Some Hall of Fame stuff, but yeah, she says haroo, and the baby says it now too. So we'll just be there like harooing.
That's hilarious.
But basically, yeah, that's what the elephant was doing in my sign, and a lot of people were really bothered by him. You know, him talking. So he went to visit Orunmila, and he said, you know, I'm trying to fulfill my destiny. I have something good to say, but I don't think I'm saying it in a way that people are appreciating it. And then I can't hear them. They can't hear me. Like, or they hear me, but I can't hear them. Like, I talk because I have no way of, like, understanding. So Orunmila told him to perform sacrifice with the divination of 𝗃𝗏𝗃𝗃. And the sacrifice actually was with or to 𝗃𝗶𝗱𝗃𝗃, which was the malanga leaf, right? And Orunmila took 2 of them and actually plastered them right on the elephant's temples, which became his ears. That's why the malanga leaf is known as the elephant ear, plant. When you look at it, uncannily, it looks just like an elephant's ear.
Exactly.
So when now he arrived with his 2 ears, Orunmila said, "You have 2 ears and 1 mouth. What does that tell you?" And the elephant said, "I must be meant to use these twice as much as I use this one." And he said, "Exactly. In life, we're meant to listen twice as much as we speak." And the elephant at that point started walking through the jungle and not saying a word. And people were kind of like in awe of him, and they looked at his ears, and, based on him not saying anything, people started talking to him and asking him for advice and, all these different things. And, he became king of the jungle that way. They fell in love with him that way because he would listen to them. And he would make things happen and have an effect. And, he was respected. That's why 𝗃𝗶𝗱𝗏 might be the Odu as to why the saying exists of Ifa is like an elephant. Any day it moves silently, it's majestic, it listens, but in Osobo or in negativity, it yells, it's aggressive, it destroys. So any day the elephant would listen twice as much as it would speak. And then apart from that, it's a message for all of us. And it's a really ironic thing because you kind of look at the space we're in, and every time somebody sees me on camera, I'm speaking. But this is really one of the few times where I'm actually so vocal. For anybody that has actually seen me out in life, I mean, excluding my family, of course, because, I'm just, I'm a family man, so we're always talking. But, like, when I'm at ceremony, regardless of the position I'm in at that point, whether I'm opening coconuts or I'm directing, I really don't speak much. And I think that comes from my training. My elders always explained to me that, the flow of the ceremony could actually be interrupted by words when we're talking about ceremonially. Like when we're in process, muscle memory and physicality actually dominates it, because the more we're able to flow without actually having to say anything, the better things go. Less opportunities for misunderstandings, less static in the room and things like that. And, it's tried and true. So, I try to incorporate this concept even in my own life, where the majority of the time I'm speaking when it's on camera. But when I'm out and about or I'm around other brothers and things like that, I try to listen as much as possible. And ironically, the greatest Patakis I've ever heard, or the greatest stories I've ever encountered, have been through ear. Where 𝗃𝗶𝗍𝗏 says, if you're going to speak, you have to listen twice as much. So really positive concept with the elephant. When he was able to incorporate this philosophy, he became celebrated rather than feared. Really incredible animal all the way around. Really lovely. So many messages. I'm sure there's 100 other Patakis that speak about him. But, just to get a full aspect of the character, in the positive as it gets. Like, there is no better representation of Ifa from an animal standpoint than an elephant. Now, mind you, I'm a huge fan of, exactly. I'm a huge fan of the leopard. I'm a huge fan of the crocodile. But at the end of the day, they got to give it up, because the elephant was the embodiment of what Ifa was in a blessed state. And that's why it's so sacred, and that's why it's in so much literature. But yeah, Phil, what do you think?
Oh, like I said, I love the elephant. Elephant's the largest land animal, right?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I think the elephant is great, and a lot of, I don't know, I think it's such a majestic animal. I wish they were native to America too. Like, we just had them here. Like, it's just elephant on I-4. Okay.
Yeah, sure. Like, that's what they go through in India, the poor things. You just have one walking across. But yeah, they're really imposing, man. There's certain animals that, I'll be frank with you, I don't really like going to zoos like that. Like, after a couple encounters with Busch Gardens and seeing what happened with Harambe, rest in peace, I'm very anti-zoo.
Yeah.
I'm not a real fan of zoos in general neither, because I think animals such as this, they do so well in the wild. But then you have the poaching thing.
Yeah.
So you really just don't know what to feel, because they're not happy per se. But, things like that, you really just want to see them in their natural habitat at peace, because it's really a reiteration to the spirit and legacy of Ifa. Whenever we lose an animal, whenever we lose a concept or anything that our scripture says in a real life representation, it's a failure on humanity's behalf. So, it's just a thought, you know, the idea, God forbid, what if one day these things aren't walking around anymore? You know, how does that affect our spirituality? How does that affect our identity? You know, so but
if you could choose one animal in the entire animal kingdom that could speak English to you and everybody else, what animal would it be? Like you could just walk up and have a conversation with it.
Oh, it's got to be the elephant.
Yeah, same here.
It's got to be the elephant, because in my mind I'm thinking maybe the crocodile because it's so old. But I mean, mind you, we're talking about the elephant. What about the prehistoric manifestations? You got the mammoth.
Yeah.
You know, even with the leopard, someone put an amazing comment on the leopard video, kind of going through the anthropology and archaeology of the leopard and the saber-toothed tiger, how it came before, and all these different things. But I would say the elephant, because the elephant, in my mind, is the most human-like, you know, from an intellectual standpoint. There's something there, you know. And
I think they're one of the only animals that actually cry emotionally too.
Yeah,
right?
no, they
like
cry.
Tears,
Like when you looked at the video of the funeral, like the baby was screaming and everything, and I'm like, dude, this is traumatic, you know. But it's just a reiteration of we cannot modify nature. You know, death is something we all have to accept. You know, and unfortunately, it's a concept and a conversation we're gonna have to have with our children one day. You know, and to see that animal handle that process with so much class, you know, it really makes you wonder, like, why are we so underdeveloped socially and emotionally, you know, as a people and as a species. You know, we still have so much to learn, and that's why the animals don't trust us. 𝗵𝗶𝗸𝗁𝗃 and 𝗃𝗶𝗍𝗁 was where man betrayed the animal kingdom.
Yeah.
They're like, we'll coexist with you, but we won't talk to you. And it's really been one of the worst punishments ever, because how much knowledge did we lose from that? How much, you know, salvation, all these different things. But, you know, we live with the effects of our ancestors to this day, and we make it work. But definitely the elephant, because that's a conversation that, you know, I mean, even if you look at the Patakis, the elephant did communicate. Even whether it was with telepathy or in 𝘃𝗶𝗍𝗂 when he would speak and be misunderstood, you know, all of these different things. It's really beautiful mythology, and it makes you wonder what was happening 5,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, 50,000 years ago. We really don't know, because we're too focused on bills and, you know, all this other nonsense. But, you know, life was different.
Yeah.
Very different at some point. So luckily we have this literature to let us know, hey, this is how things were. We won't ever get that again, but let's try to modify ourselves to secure longevity and legacy.
Yep. All right, guess what time it is?
All my members.
That's right. It's time to show some love to the people who show love to the channel, man.
Shit.
And if you're wondering what that is, we have a membership program that you can join and be a part of our family. It's real simple. Right under this video, there's a join button. You hit that button and it gives you access to 3 separate tiers. Each different tier offers its own separate perks, whether it's extra episodes, early releases to podcasts, discounts on merch, and even more. So this week we're going to spotlight the premium super fans here. So let me actually scroll to the bottom. All right. We're going to go with, it refreshed. Hold on. Kenya Hutton.
Kenya.
Lovely lady.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, stop refreshing. Joaquin Mendez.
Blessings me. How?
James Gatabaki.
Okay, thank you.
Derek Jones.
All right, blessings me. How?
Let's go with, every time I scroll down, it refreshes.
Oh, Lord.
Hemp Lord.
Okay. Hey, what's going on?
Sean Gale.
Yep.
Chief Olu.
Thank you.
Music Lover 29.
Premium.
And let's go with Jay Palacio.
Thank you very much, Jay, and thank you to all the members, premium, VIP, supporter, and other. You guys are the best part of the channel. If you know anybody that could benefit from the channel or the membership program, better said, please let them know about it. Workshops are on the way, guys. Look into it in the description. A lot of great stuff going to be happening over that 48-hour period here in Orlando, Florida. Can't wait to be around each and every one of you.
Am I invited?
Of course, Phil.
Okay.
Of course, man. A shout out to our sponsor, Twin Precision Mobile Detailing. If you're in Central Florida and you need a car cleaned at your convenience, be sure to call these brothers. They're doing amazing work. 𝗏𝗏𝗏candlesandmore.com is up and running for all your shipping and product needs and services. You know, if it's not breakable, we'll send it to you. If you can't catch us on YouTube, be sure to listen to us on, you know, platforms like Spotify, iHeartRadio, etc.
And Alexa
as well. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Be sure to subscribe. You know, a big thank you from all of us here at Our Roots Podcast. And until next time, see the light.
Baba Joseph showed the path today. Baba knows the way, we follow the signs. He walks with the Orisha through sacred lines. He speaks with the ancients, he honors the drum. He carries the wisdom where we all come from.